Hello, Facebook fans and YouTube fans of DX Engineering. It is Tuesday afternoon here in the Eastern time zone of the USA. This is Tuesdays with DX Engineering. And this is a show where we like to feature DX Engineering employees that maybe you have spoken to on the phone or gotten an email from or maybe received a text from. And today we have our special guest is George K3GP. Hello, George.
Good afternoon, everybody.
So, George, let's refresh everybody's memory about how long have you been a ham?
52 years.
52 years. And what was your original call, George?
Well, original WM3QER, then WA3QER.
WA3QER was when you upgraded to your general. That's a nice call. Actually, that has a good ring on CW. And so how long have you worked for DX Engineering, George?
I'm in my 16th year, started in June of 2008.
So pretty early on. I mean, the company was only about 8 years old at that point. What do you remember about that first year here at DX?
Well, a lot of fond memories. Not so many phone calls, but we had a lot of new products we were looking at. And it certainly has been fun to see how the company has grown over the years. But initial years, there was just about 3 of us on the phone. And when somebody took a vacation, it got a little interesting.
Well, you know, and I think that the change in technology over that time period from 2008 to now is incredible with the internet. And I know you have a tremendous IT background, but how much time do you spend answering emails from customers?
Well, I would say a good 40 to 50% of my time is answering emails of all sorts, and also occasionally drawing up a diagram to help somebody set up their station.
In the emails, it's dxengineering@dxengineering.com. So it's very easy to get a hold of the sales and technical team. What kind of a diagram have you recently drawn up? Do you remember, George?
Well, a chap wanted to use our remote switching, 8-port remote switch, and he wanted to automate it. So I was helping him along to integrate that into some switching equipment that he had.
Yeah, so, you know, and it's those unique projects that I think is really one of the strengths of the team, and the fact that you have so much experience. And I mean, now last weekend was the CQ Worldwide RTTY contest. Did you participate?
Very little. I had a family emergency that took me out of it. That's one of my favorite contests. It was a little difficult to give up, but family comes first. Unfortunately, the timing was not good, so we only made a few contacts.
Well, that's okay, because you know there are several really good RTTY contests.
Absolutely.
And you know, we're just at the start of the contest season, but you know, with conditions really being good on 15 and 10, I was looking at the scores, and it looks like you know, everybody had a really good time. Tell us about your love of RTTY.
I got interested in RTTY back in the days when you had an honest-to-God teleprinter. If you remember Arnold or Walter Cronkite in the news, they always started the news out with the tick, tick, tick of the teletype, and that always fascinated me. And we had those where I used to work at a steel company I worked at, and they were being phased out, and I was able to pick one of those up for next to nothing and brought it home and started to put it together and enjoyed that. And that got me started. And the fun part was, I remember the first contact I made on RTTY, I called CQ, and a chap from Australia came back, and I just about fell out of my chair.
If you had to guess how many RTTY contacts you've made over the years?
Oh, I would say about 30,000.
Yeah, I would say you're very well experienced in that area, and certainly now you've got it. You've upgraded from the old machines to multiple decoders and that sort of stuff with RTTY, right?
Oh, absolutely. The computer makes life a lot easier. I do miss the smell of oil, though, and the click clack. But all that, when I left Pennsylvania, I had to leave that behind. It was just too much of a load for the mover.
And let's talk about, when you're the radios of today and how easy it is to get set up on the digital modes like FT8, FT4, and RTTY.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the newer radios have the sound card and the interface built right into it. So where I started out and I had a separate terminal unit, an ST5 terminal unit, I built up and wound the toroids. It is so much simpler today where you just take a USB cable and plug it into the radio, configure the radio. There's a little bit of work there and setting up the menus, but it's not bad. And you can be on the air with FT8 or RTTY in fairly short order.
And so if somebody has a question on how to do that, they can always email you at dxengineering@dxengineering.com or call in on the 800 number and ask for George K3GP. I want to talk about how simple, a low-cost radio like the IC7300 is to get set up on digital modes.
No, it's phenomenally easy to set it up, and it's got a very good price point, that particular radio. Today, I think the two most competitive radios for somebody to get into FT8 and RTTY would be the 7300 or perhaps the Yaesu FTDX10.
Right. Both excellent choices and high reliability and that sort of thing. What are you hearing from customers in the last couple of days? What kind of questions are you getting, George?
Well, a lot of questions have come in regarding problems that people are having. How do I, they're having a problem with a piece of equipment. Sometimes it's user error. Sometimes it's an actual problem. So trying to help them determine, is there a problem that maybe is covered under warranty with the radio? Or is this an operator snafu that maybe I can help them along with? That's been the majority of the things I've had in the past week or so.
George, let's talk about your shack. Tell us about the radios there that you're sitting in front of.
Okay, well, I've got 3 Yaesu radios. I think radios are a lot like cars in the sense that, do you prefer a Ford or do you prefer a Chevy? I've got Yaesu radios. I have an FTDX 101D, and the left radio for contesting. The right radio is an FTDX 5000. And sitting here in the middle underneath my monitor is an FTDX 10 that I picked up specifically for field day. It's a phenomenal CW radio. I'm CW captain for our radio club, and it's been a phenomenal CW radio. So that one's sitting here kind of as a backup. I don't use it too much, but it's still a lot of fun, and it's one that you could take, let's say you want to do parks on the air, that sort of thing. It's got a lot smaller footprint, and it's a lot more portable than the other 2 radios.
What about amplifiers and rotor controls there, George?
You can see the rotor controls up here. Those are green heron rotor controls. Amplifiers, I've got an original AL80A that I bought in 1990. It's gone through 1 tube in, 33 years? Can't complain about that. And more recently, about 4 or 5 years ago, I picked up a ACOM 1500, which is a phenomenal amplifier. Interestingly enough, both of these amplifiers, I can run pretty much full out to their full capacity on RTTY and have no problems. Keeps the shack warm too.
Yes, there's nothing wrong with that. Let's see who we've got in the chat room here today. Watching you, George. We've got Richard, Whiskey Bravo 7, Mike Lima is on. And also our friend Mike, Kilo Golf 2, Mike from Jacksonville, Florida. And Andy is on from England, 2 Echo 0, Radio Echo Echo. And we've got Amy, N8AMY. K3GP is my teammate on Ohio State Parks on the Air. with K3GP. And so nice to have Amy on.
Absolutely.
Here's Amy's father, Wayne, K8 Fox, who is also part of the DX Engineering sales team. And great to have you on, Wayne. We'll see you tomorrow. And let's see, Mike says, I want to try RTTY. What is the best decoding software to use? What do you think, George?
For a beginner, look at MMTTY. That has been solid as a rock for a lot of years. It's freeware. It's well supported and readily available.
Great. Yeah, that's can't go wrong there. And we also have Scott on, Kilo Echo 5 Oscar Lima. And another one of the DX Engineering sales team, Dave, KDV, says, hi, Tim and George. Always fun to work Team K3GP during the RTTY contest. And we've got, see, Richard says, by the way, George is a great help and has answered many of my questions. So another good job, George. And our friend from Kentucky, WA4 Mike Oscar Mike is on, and he's in Fort Mitchell. Bob the Traveler, that's WD8NVN. He says, I have an ACOM 1500 from DX Engineering. Best amplifier for sure. And we also have Clayton on, Whiskey 8 Oscar Whiskey Victor. And Dave is on, Kilo India 5 Uniform Echo Victor. So a lot of guys tuned in today, George. George, how about some advice for getting ready for winter time? What should guys be doing to get ready?
Well, I go and lower. I happen to have a tower now that I put in about a year ago that I can lower. And I'm not so much into climbing anymore, but I'll lower the tower and do some maintenance, especially with the rotators. One of the things I've noticed, if I've leave the rotators alone for long periods of time, they get a little cranky and for me. So I like to keep those things going. Well before a contest, I'll crank them up and make sure they're working well. That's one thing that one of my checklist items that is at the very top.
That is very good advice. In fact, you know, guys should be moving their rotators at least once a week. I know we've had customers that leave the rotator in the same position for 6 or 8 months, and then when they go to use it, it won't move. And so that is really good advice. Well, George, thanks so much for coming on today.
My pleasure.
Thanks for all you do for DX Engineering and taking care of our customers. And thanks to all of you for watching today. I hope you had a good time. And we'll see you on Thursday for the Manufacturers Showcase. Until then, 73 from DX Engineering.
So long, everybody.